Ons like om te wys ons kan die weggooi man. Daar is weg. But the roots are so much deeper. But isn't that what we do as men? We throw the fruits away. We can show here's the fruits. Yeah. I don't drink anymore. But why did you start drinking, man? What's the root? What caused that? Because in a few years' time, people then go back to it. They go back to the alcohol. They go back to the drugs. They go back to who they were before. Because it was just the grassroots that they were dealing with and not the deeper roots. And we as men, we don't want to go down there because it's got to do with emotions. It's got to do with the feeling stuff. It's got to do with the things that brings tears to your eyes when people don't see those tears. And that is the vessel, that struggle that we have as men. We can't lose these kind of things. So this topic about transformation is a continuous transformation. It's not just the transformation just happened once for you. Because as I'm listening to you, Albert, you're speaking the transformation of amen. When your friends were shot, the two of them, this transformation had to happen in that space. And then the guy that asked you to go to church with him, that's another transformation that had to take place there. And then your dad that went with you, it's another. So it's a continuous thing to work on. And when people speak about transformation, they think it's a one-hit wonder. Transformation, gone. Stan.
No, the thing about about what I often bring this into the space of people when I speak to people, and I always ask this question: what is the opposite of addiction? And many people will say the opposite of addiction is sobriety. Which, if you look at it, if you're not addicted, then obviously the opposite will be sobriety. But I beg to differ and say that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but the opposite of addiction is connection. Because remember that there was a connection that I was, because when I was on drugs, I was connected to people that was on drugs. When I was a gangster, I was connected to people that was a gangster. But now I'm not a gangster anymore. Now that I'm not on drugs anymore, to what am I connected now with? And one of the things that we need to be connected with, because when people find out, when your family find out that you're on drugs, the first thing that they do, they disconnect themselves from you. So now when you come and you make the change in your life and the transformation starts happening in your life, there needs to be some sort of connection. So the question that you have to ask yourself when you go in your recovery and you start with the transformation, you need to ask yourself, what are you connected to? So I'm going to give, if I'm allowed to, I want to give some 5 pointers I want to give away for any person that is going through recovery that wants to tell them, okay, Albert, how do I do this? How do I start with my transformation? So I'm going to give you some 5 pointers I'm going to give to you. So if you are able to write this down, you're able to write it down. But this is something that this is not something that I read. This is something that I have experienced truly. So I've experienced this, and it's something that it's something that I've processed. And I looked at my life journey and I brought this concept, which is called the mathematics of life. So you would see there is a catch to it. So my surname is Matthews, and now I'm talking about the mathematics of life. So what you are seeing here today, you are seeing a mathematician. And what I have done is so I'm not a mathematician, but I'm a mathematician. One of a kind. You're not going to find him anywhere in the world. So I am honored to do that. So yeah, I'm going to give you some pointers. So the first thing, when you look at the basic concepts of maths, you look at there's plus, there's minus, there's multiply, there's divide, and there's equal. So that's the 5 basic concepts of maths. So the first thing that we speak about is addition. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, who and what are you adding to your life? If you and we know Stan or Dennis, you can know, your mom also tell me, show me your friends and I will show you your future. So if I can show you your friends, and it's automatically you can see your future. So the thing is, so if I add, whoever I add into my life will determine how my future is going to look like. So if I'm kind of looking at that, so then I must be very selective as to who I'm adding into my life, because I can't just go add any person. They kind of a pit and say, "Maar gaan add my life." I need to be selective. Who do I add into my life? Because who I add into my life, and we look at if you look at the mathematics, it's like if I add a negative number to something, it takes away. But if I add a positive number, it adds value to it. So when you add somebody that is positive into your life, it adds value into your life. When you add somebody that is negative, it takes away from you. So the first thing that you have to do is that you need to add, which speaks about addition. So the thing is, examine who you are adding into your life. I always say, don't show me how big your circle is, but show me you have in your corner, because you can have a big circle, but you have nobody in your corner. So the first thing, addition. Second thing is, there's certain things that you need to subtract. There's things that you need to let go. And we often say about people, places, and things that you need to let go. So what are you willing to let go for you, to enable for you to grow? So there's things that you have to let go. There's your mindset, old mindset that you have to let go of. The way you used to do things, you have to let go. There's certain people that you also have to subtract out of your life. So now you have added, did a subtraction, and it brings you to the division. So now often, have you ever seen there's certain people that you have shared certain things with, and they weren't willing to celebrate you? They were more envious about you. These are the people that wants to bring division in your life. I remember when I started my journey in my recovery, I was about 6-7 months clean. And when I was 6-7 months clean, a woman in our street came and she said, "Oh brother, what a wonder you're still standing." I'm like, what a wonder I'm still standing. So your intention is for me that I'm not gonna last that long. But look what the Lord has done. Is 13 years later, I'm still standing. I'm still moving on. But I needed to identify that who's the people that wants to bring division in my life. When I identified who's the people that want to bring division in my life, I know that I cannot share anything with them. Brings me to the fourth point. The fourth point speaks about multiplication. So as someone that is going through your journey of your recovery, you need to understand that you constantly need to multiply. And what I speak about multiply, there needs to be growth. But the growth needs to happen from the inside. So you need to multiply and you just grow in yourself, your identity. You need to grow in your self-awareness. You need to grow in who you become. So now the thing is, like, once you multiply, when I look at my own life, I started out, I once was a drug addict, and it was a full stop. But now I needed to get that I once was a drug addict. I needed to turn that full stop into a comma and say, but now I am a father. Now I am a husband. Now I am a mentor. Now I am a motivational speaker. Now I'm about to be an author of I'm releasing my book. And now and this is where the multiplication needs to stop, because you need to constantly need to move, because the moment you stand still, when you look at water that stands still, it stagnates. And what happens when water stagnates? You walk past it, you hit the water, it gee slegte reuk af. Now there's some people, you walk past them, you knock against them, you see what what comes out of their mouth. It's a whole lot of filth that comes out of their mouth, and that's an indication that they were standing still. There's no growth in them. But when you go to the mountain, the water that is flowing, you can take a cup and you can drink that water because it's fresh. So what you need to do is, like, when you multiply, you are you're moving. And it brings me to the last point, which is the equal. And we want to go to the point of where we equal people to this, you're equal to that, you're equal to that, you're equal to your daddy, you're just like your daddy, you're just like your mommy, you're just like that, you're just like that. But whatever you are equal to do is determined by what you do before, what you add, what you subtract, who's the people that wants to bring division, how you multiply will determine what you are equal to. Today, I am equal to what God has planned for my life, or what He has purposed for my life. But I needed to go through the process of the mathematics of life to get me to understand that somewhere I needed to get to the point of transformation that needed to happen in my life. And today is where I am, and I'm able to be of a more, I can give more of myself today, but I needed to go through this whole journey of understanding that I needed to endure through my mathematics of life.
Yesterday, this ek sien hier Pastor Craven sê mathematics is as diep goed as wat is share saam met ons. But yo, my man, I can resonate with what you're saying, Albert. I can resonate with what you are saying, my brother. Kyk jy, man, 'n man kom ons van daai mos, man, waar daai stagnant water that stinks. Yeah. And that person that's the division, man. That doesn't see you amount to nothing, or that surprise that you are still standing. We have more people like that in our communities then people that back you up. And again, we come we come again stand on as a weird crab mentality, man. Where somebody's seeing somebody getting up from the lowest of low, they're just moving a bit up, but they still want to pull you down, man. They want to leave you there in that dirty, filthy water, leave you. But they's quite damn man for hulle. Because they don't have ambitions, they don't have goals, they don't have visions, and they don't put action to what they say. Sy het mos die mense wat sê mos op en hulle praat heel dag. No, one day I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do this, en dan is hulle by 50 nog altyd by the one day. Hulle is amper soos 'n fairy tale, once upon a time, maar hulle het nie gemove van die once upon a time nie. But this mathematician, this whole equation that you've given us to today, this evening, Albert, it comes to the equal, the last one. So what are you equal to now in that journey of your life? And this is for me, it's resonating for me, and I hope it's resonating for those that's listening and watching as well. The things that you have gone through life, the adding, the subtraction, the division, the multiplication, where are you equal to now, man? And this, even this leads to politics, to tomorrow's vote. The adding, the subtracting, the division, the multiplication. Waar maakt jy jou X, my bro?
It's very difficult, yeah. It's very difficult. Do you know, Stan, like for me also to answer actually what am I equal to? And for me, that equation, I needed to because many times we want to measure ourselves with the person next to us. We want to measure ourselves with people that we see on the TV. We want to measure ourselves with anything. But the thing is, what you need to do is that you need to measure yourself with the man in the middle. I think Michael Jackson writes a song and sings that I'm starting with the man in the mirror. And I think that is where we need to start. So as an individual, you need to start with the man in the mirror. And as men, no matter what your past look like, no matter what, because the thing that you need to understand, if you're going to live in your past, you're going to be depressed. If you want to live in the future, you're going to be anxious. But if you live in the now, you will become content. And this is what I needed to understand, that I needed to live in the now. I needed to take and say that today I need to be the best version of myself, because every single day I have opportunity to be a better version of what I was yesterday. And every day I needed to push myself. So for me, my equal to is this, that every single day I just try to be a better version of myself. So I will never ever arrive. I think there's this one number that you punch into your calculator. That if you punch it in your calculator, it just give you the decimal numbers, comma, what, and you just have to write it as a certain number, because once you're unable to, it's never come to an end. Now this is what I am now, because every single day you're just adding on to yourself. So you never get to the point of arriving, because the moment you think you are arriving, you don't make it open for you to grow anymore. And I think this is what you need to understand, that when we go into our recovery and we start processing our recovery, you never ever arrive. Because of one thing that I need to understand, I am one hit away of becoming an addict again. I am one hit away from destroying every single thing that I built up. So I cannot become arrogant. But the one thing that I need to do, that I need to keep on moving. And that's what I'm speaking about, the freshness. And I want to make this example. So I don't know if you know the life of a crab. So the life of a crab starts out when a crab starts growing, he grows into a certain size. But for this crab to grow into something bigger, he needs to leave his shell behind, and he needs to go get him a bigger shell that he can grow into. So what happens in your transition, when you're transitioning from the one phase to the next phase, is when you become vulnerable. Because when a crab is without his shell, he's vulnerable, because anything that touches him can damage him. But when you have his shell on him, the stuff that touches him kind of damage him. So what you need to understand, when you go through your transformation and you're transitioning from the one thing to another thing, you are very, very, very vulnerable. And that's why it's very important with the addition, because the people that you're adding in your life, they will cover you in your time of your vulnerability, because you need to move over to something that is greater. But now that you have moved into something that is greater, that is bigger than you, you grow into it. And now that you have grown into it, you can't become comfortable because you constantly grown, so you have to move over to the next shelf. So you never ever get to the point of where you find yourself, you're arriving. The danger that you have, if you stay where you are, because if the crab stays there where he is and he don't move from the one thing to the next thing, he dies. Now there's some people, and I'm not speaking about physical death, but maybe there's spiritual death, there's emotional death, because they have not challenged themselves to transition from the one phase to the next phase that they need to grow. And I think we as men, we need to understand that there's some growing up that needs to happen. But what we need to understand, that growing up doesn't come with age. Because I can sit and have a conversation with a 60-year-old person, and he didn't grow up, he's not matured. And I can sit with somebody that's 24 years old and that is matured. So it tells me it's not age that really brings to a point of saying that you're matured, but it's experience. So some of us, we are still stuck in our old shells, but we need to move over to our next shelf because there's some growing that needs to happen.
Yes, yeah. And that growing needs to happen. It's true, Albert. That growing needs to happen. And I like what you're speaking about, man. That going back to the addiction is just around the corner, man. I come from a life of addiction as well, and alcohol abuse. Um, and for me, when I left the drugs and I left the alcohol, because it was vices for me, man, to
Mm,
escape my true identity also. And I've only found my identity now recently in Christ and nothing
mm,
else. So
mm,
when I gave up alcohol, when I gave up the drugs, um, I sat in circles, and it's true what you're saying. It's who you surround yourself with, man. And I thought, no, I can drink mos nie meer nie, man. I can go into those circles and I can be strong. And then
mm,
it started. I only just have one drink, man. It's okay. And then it's only have another two drinks. And then it somehow went to three drinks, and from a six pack it went to a tray, and then from a tray it went to haywire. And then I
mm,
was worse off than what I was. And I had
mm,
to learn that lesson again. And I had to
mm.
learn the lesson again. And I think what I want to say is also, there's going to be times that you're going to fall, but you don't have to stay down. I
Sure,
think when you
true.
stay down, you speak down to yourself, and it's almost like you're saying, okay, that is what they expect of me, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going to be. But it's not you. It's not
Mm,
you, because you have been designed to be great. You've been
mm,
designed to transform all the time, to grow.
mm,
Ja, okay, ek het ook 'n groei ook buite hier nou groter geraak, want ek was baie maar, but but in who you are as a person as well, you grow. And
mm,
that illustration of the crab getting a bigger house, getting it happens, man. But surround you with people that builds. Don't
yeah,
surround you only with architects, because then you
yeah.
will only be a drawing on a piece of paper.
Mm.
Stan, anything that you want to throw in, Stan?
I just want to say, Albert, just to come in there to to your story. A lot of people think that you become an addict if you do drugs, if you do alcohol, or abuse. There's other forms of addiction as well, and I think a lot of times we don't realize we might have a job, we might have a house where we live, but we are also addicts. We are also living a life where we are not happy, and I think you know it also does also go for it's actually valid for those people that are going through. Work can also become sort of a place where you don't feel comfortable, and because you don't feel comfortable in your workplace, there's other ways of addiction. And I think,
Mm,
this is so valid for all of us. We need to find ourselves, and like you said, addition, we need to look at what we actually add to our life, what is important in our life. What you said, multiplication. It doesn't mean if I live also on the Cape Flats, just that or come out of abusive home, that I can dive spiritually. But
mm,
it can also be when I'm out there. Maybe I might live a lavish lifestyle, the best lifestyle, but I can still be an addict and I can still be lost. How do we
mm,
talk to those people? Because you need to find yourself. A lot of people hide behind material things, but yet you
mm.
are so much lost. You are so lost that you don't know who you are. How do you look for your true identification, Albert? If you can maybe touch a bit on that.
Yeah, we find ourselves we events where people what we kind of get it wrong is that when we kind of put addiction and saying that addiction is just for a specific group of people. It's maybe for people that come from the Cape Flats and stuff like that. But these people, there's a lot of other people that they have different forms of addictions. Just maybe because your addiction is maybe differently, it's a different addiction than what I have. But you're still addicted to certain things that maybe you are addicted to coke, maybe you're addicted to a grandpa, maybe you're addicted to whatever it is, certain things that you're addicted to, but it's still a form of addiction. And many people they don't want to come out of it, because when you find yourself that you are addicted to something, it brings you some sort of comfort. And the comfort that it brings you is like, and this is the thing, is like, so some of us maybe, and I'm a very practical person, so we all know there's always that one certain seat that's in your house that gives you that comfortable seating. So you would always go sit in that seat. So if anyone else sits on that seat, Dennis will come in like, hey, why are you sitting on my seat? That is my seat. Because he finds comfort in it. But the thing about when it comes to from addiction is that the fact is that, are you willing to step out of your comfort zone? And this is the challenge, is that many people, they're not willing to step out of their comfort zone, that they have become so comfortable, they've built a comfort zone for themselves, and that they are not willing to step out of the comfort zone. So the thing that you have to ask yourself is like, how do you really identify, is like, and ask yourself like, how do you identify if I'm addicted to something? Is like, just look at your lifestyle. Look at your lifestyle, look at the patterns. Sit back and relax and ask yourself, like, look at your, do some reflection that you need to do, and ask yourself, what is the thing that I'm doing that I even don't know that I'm doing it anymore? And then that will be kind of, and it will draw you into a line and say, okay, this is a form of addiction, and it doesn't matter whatever the form of your addiction is, there is help for you. There is help for you. It doesn't matter what it is, because the only thing is that the first thing that they say is that if you need to acknowledge, and need to say that, okay, I am addicted and stuff like that, and then but it's still what Dennis has mentioned. You still have to go through the process. You still have to go through. And I think one of the things that and as if you draw it back to being if we're speaking about fathers, is so that many fathers is like they are struggling with finding their identity. They are struggling, because now we're living, and I think we're living in a technology age that we are living in. So my son Malachi is 4 years old. Malachi believes that he has a phone. 4 years old, he believes he has a phone. So now what he's living is like, hey, liever nou op 'n phone, liever. So what it means that at 4 years old, he's already addicted to a phone. He knows already he can YouTube and stuff like that. So he's addicted to a phone. So there's a form of addiction. But how do we really start to break this down? And this is what we need to do. We need to firstly, you need to identify that there is a problem. Now, as fathers, it's like, fathers now we have so different challenges that we have now. And I think my wife once she mentioned this, and we made a joke about it, and we said that we lived in a time period where we had to speak about the birds and the bees, but now we have to speak about the birds and the bees, the birds and the birds and the birds, the bees and the bees, the birds that wants to be bees, the bees that wants to be birds. We have to speak about all these things that we have to speak about. So now, how do you speak about these things? There's so much stuff, so much pressure that is on the current fathers now, because nowadays it's like you have to send your children a message now, because if you want to speak to them, they don't respond. If you send them a message, they respond to it. Do you understand? So it's a whole thing that we have to send. But the thing that we need to do is that you need to identify and ask yourself and tell yourself that I have a problem.
Yeah, I think it's being honest with yourself. There's many vices that we look for to take us away from who we are. And again, it's a challenge that you've put out there, Albert, about looking in the mirror. Can we truly look in the mirror and see that reflection in the mirror and really know who we are? How long can we look in the mirror without putting on a facade, without putting on makeup, without putting on anything extra, but looking at ourselves in the mirror and seeing who we are for who we are? Not for expectations of other people, not for trying to fit into society, not for wanting to look quiet on social media or anything like that, but to look in the mirror and see who we are for who we are. And that is a hard thing to do, because in it, they say the mirror never lies, because in it, there's depth in what you see. You see, when I was an addict, the last thing that I wanted to do before I wanted to hang myself and then after shoot people was to go look in the mirror. And when I looked in the mirror, I just saw a skeleton of who Dennis is. And there was something sitting at the back, at the bottom here inside me, which is called my being, was sitting there and saying, "What are you reaching out for? So, what vices are you trying to get to who you really are, to the identity of Dennis? Are you using a vice of drugs? Are you using a vice of alcohol? Are you using a vice of wanting to fit in? Are you using? Are you using? Are you using?" And I stood there for about 20 minutes looking in the mirror and I didn't even know what to say to myself. I couldn't even have a conversation with myself. But when I'm surrounded with people, I'm the talk of the town because then I can talk on one. And this is where this is where it is. The vices that we search for. You can be the light at every party, but your light never shines with yourself.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then you have to look at now where does it begin for me? And that is just something that I'm taking out of what you're sharing, Albert.
I just saw one of the viewers just asked a question. There are some people who say so in it so hard to get out of the dependent mindset. Do you replace the addiction with something else or what? And I think that is a very, very valid question that has been asked. That it's like, do you, when you go through your process of addiction, do you replace your addiction? What do you really do? And we often find ourselves that many people they find themselves that, okay, maybe I don't drug anymore, but I'm drinking a beer now, so I'm not that bad anymore. So the only thing that you're doing is your addiction is just in a different form now. So what you need to do is, and that's why we need to come to the point of identifying what is the root cause of your addiction. Because once you get to the root of it, you will then understand that you don't have to deal with the fruit of the things, because now constantly you're gonna have the build-up of saying, look here, okay, I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna smoke tuk anymore, but I'm gonna smoke dacha. Now you say, okay, I'm not gonna smoke dacha anymore, I'm gonna drink a beer. Now I'm not gonna drink a beer anymore, I'm gonna drink ciders. I'm not gonna drink ciders anymore. You just go from one thing to another thing. So it means I cannot cope without anything, without doing something. So it means there's a problem inside of me. And then this is where we need to go. Like we need to stop being real. And I think I made an illustration when we had the men's conference where they had, it's like, and I had the shirt on and saying that we can easily deal with the things that is put up on us, but we can't deal with the things that is hurt inside. And I think this is where we need to do. We need to get to the point of where you should start to being real with yourself. And that is where you start looking yourself in the mirror. And that's why I say it's important with who you have in your life, because you need to have people that is like a mirror to you. And that is people that's going to speak the truth to you. But you're also going to need people that is like a shadow to you, because a shadow never leaves you. So these are this is the people that you need to like. You need to have people that is like a mirror and like a shadow. This mirror is, they need to reflect the truth. They need to tell me, Albert, you have a problem. But don't worry, I will stick with you as long as you are wanting to take this journey on. I will stick to you like a shadow and will never leave you. So it's not about replacing your addiction. It's not about changing your addiction, but it's about dealing with your addiction. It's one thing to cope with your addiction. It's another thing to deal with your addiction. Yeah. The thing is, if I have a problem with my finger, and I every time put the plaster on, and I take tablets, I put the plaster on, it means I'm coping with it. But I'm coping with it. But if I have to deal with it, I have to go to the doctor, and the doctor tells me I have to amputate it. If I amputate it, it means I'm dealing with it. And this is what we many people, they don't want to deal with the addiction, they want to cope with the addiction.
Yeah, sure. Deep, bruh, deep. So addiction is just a byproduct of the root cause. If you look at it, yeah, because the root cause is there. The addiction you can deal with, but that root, if you don't deal with the root, then you're not dealing with the issue. So you got outlet search. You're always going to be searching, and you're never going to be happy with who you are as a human being, as a person, because you think that something needs to be in place for you to be something. Yeah, and this is what we deal with as men. Stan, we deal with this as men. Ons cover goedes gou op, man. When we must deal with stuff, and that is why when we burst with all the emotions and we don't even know where it comes from. And when that happens, then all the other things of abuse comes out. because we don't deal with things that hit us here, man. Wat ons hier slat. Man, ons moet so praat, man. Ons kry seer, man. Ons kry seer as ons kos op die tafel kan sit. We get hurt, man. This COVID hurt me as a man because I'm an artist. I didn't have work for a long time, man. So I couldn't put food on the table and I couldn't do this, I couldn't do. It hurts, man. It hurts. But if I'm going to just say, no, everything is fine, no, I need to, then I'm lying, man. Then I'm lying. And we need to be real about who we are and where we're at. And it's important to have that mirror of a friend to say that you can share with somebody, man, without judgment, without somebody that oh, jy het aware that I got no weer vir my iets vra, I got no. Jy weet man, jy kry daai mense. So it's that people that you surround you with that brings the real you out of you. And that is what we have to look at as men also, man. Albert, in this transformation of yours, sorry man, just in this transformation of yours, where do you find yourself now? I know we spoke about you and your son, but where's Albert now as Albert?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I'm working on. So one of the things that I recently launched is obviously my YouTube channel that I launched, and what I was pushing a lot of content out there on my YouTube channel. So I think on Wednesday I'm gonna do some recording as well. I'm also in the process of still working on my book as well. So my book will be coming out soon. So the book is titled The Mathematics of Life. So the 5 key points that I just gave away is actually the foundation of the book, where I will be sharing with you in depth of what I needed to go through. And obviously it's just not meant for people that is on drugs, that is meant for anybody, because we all experience life and we all have to go through life. So it's not just aimed at people that is been on drugs and stuff like that. Although it's going to be ideal for people that's been on drugs and stuff like that. But the idea of the book is it's going to have the book where you can read, and it's also going to have a workbook where you have to challenge yourself and going through and writing it down. Because I believe if you don't write it down, like one of the concepts that Pastor Craven has learned us is, if it's not captured, it never happened. So what you need to do, you need to write down your journey and journal your recovery and journal your journey as you start going through the whole thing of the mathematics of life. So that is what I'm currently doing, and obviously just finding myself being a blessing into the area of Mitchells Plain area. I'm currently working in the Mitchells Plain area, and obviously for me, even for this whole transition that happened from working all alongside Pastor Craven and always being alongside him and stuff like, and being transitioned from where I needed to. Not being alongside him anymore, and I was like almost like I was on my own. And obviously for me, this was really my transition then took place. But then what happened is, like, everything that he taught me then was automatically they had an opportunity to come out. Do you understand? And for me, that is for me what is that I really enjoy now. So that is actually where I'm finding myself in as well now.
Nice man, nice. Lekker man, lekker. Stan. Say iets my bro. Mute, is op mute.
Hy's op mute.
Ja, but sorry man, ek het 'n skelm gegaan daar na jou page toe. And this is the link for your so people can go on here. Please go like. There Jesse say he's just subscribe. So you've got one new subscriber. Guys, please subscribe so that he can have more of these videos out there, so that more people can find healing through his story. But that brings me actually, just to a bit of a funny side. Ek het so gespy op jou so 'n bietjie. En sy het nou na Pastor Craven se dingers toe gegaan, se rehab toe gegaan. Toe vat sy sommer die man se dogter ook. Nou ons moet daarop praat, maar hoe vat sy die man se dogter ook, man?
Transformation.
You say like that. You're like, you know what? Obviously, yeah. So I've got an amazing wife. Yeah, we happen to be the daughter of Pastor Craven. And actually, one of the things, and obviously, this is a space for us to be real. So I found myself where I was working. So I was working at the center with my father-in-law, with my wife, and then obviously, so my portion of where I was working, the contract that I was working for, was coming to an end. So now I had to go sit with my father-in-law, but in his capacity of being my boss, I have to go sit with him, and I had to ask him, like, okay, what is the next move for me now? And I imagine me being a husband and being a father, I needed to go speak to someone Well, I'm married to your daughter, so how can I speak about the challenges I have? And it was very difficult for me, but I needed to sit down and I needed to be real. But when I had that conversation with him, I realized that, Albert, there's certain things that you have to go and you have to go do for yourself. I went out, I pushed my CV out a few places, and then I managed to get the job. And through the grace of God, in the midst of COVID, so and it's kind of stand as being married to Pastor Craven's daughter is like it's like for me it's really a great blessing. And obviously, like you said, I know jy kan doen, jy kan kyk, die man gekom hier so vir help en hy trou sommer die pastoor se dogter. But as like I said, it's only through the grace of God, man. And God has always a plan, a way of how we orchestrate things. And so obviously, I because baie lief vir my vrou, yeah. So I love and I enjoy the journey with her as well. And I think that is one of the things that God has added into my life that helped me through my journey of my recovery as well.
Yeah, and just listening to you, Albert, man, there's so much light in what you share. And that light is needed for men, be it young, be it doesn't matter the age, man. It's men need such talks, man. Men need such light in their community, in their circle. So the addition into your life, we need more men like you, man. That goes out and you've gone through a lot. Your transformation is it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and I know God gets all the glory and all the honor and praise for it. But men needs to hear the story, man, because there's somebody out there that's probably sitting where you sat at with a friend that just died in their arms. And that thinks that I must now step up. But what does step up look like? Because step up doesn't mean putting a gun in the hand and then go dialing what you must. Step up, what you taught us today and showed us tonight was that step up is stepping up here and checking, where is this taking me, man? What am I going to do now? And let us challenge this more, man, than our physical being as men. Let's challenge our line of thinking. So thank you for opening this up to us. I've been really for me, I've been inspired once again. I've been inspired. Thank you, Albert. Thank you.
The blessings. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I just want to say, if I can title this conversation, I would actually title it "Your Attitude Determines Your Altitude," because you had to change your attitude. You had to change the way of thinking. And I think with all this, Albert, I can look up to you, and if I look at you, Albert, when I saw you Saturday, I thought this is a normal guy with a 9 to 5 job. He has a qualification. He had a liquor lever. But when I listened to your story, I realized, but this guy comes from a broken background. But looking at you now, I won't say, because you obviously found yourself through this process. You got a second chance in life, right? You started over, and I think the fact that happened to you, you're now giving hope to many other people, and that is what we need to do. Is we need to use our testimony, we need to use our story to encourage other people. So I just want to leave it with you. Just leave a word of positivity out there to our viewers, to our listeners, because let me tell you, there's a lot of mothers and fathers that are going through the same, as yourself, and maybe somebody's listening. So just leave them with a word, just plant the seed, and so one day somebody else can.
Yeah. So for me, the first thing for a mother that is maybe watching this, and maybe a father, parent, a grandmother, whoever's watching this, and you maybe find yourself that your son, daughter, grandchild is on drugs, and you're wondering, when will they ever change? I will share in 1 minute. I will share what happened to me. So we were a group of friends, and this old lady, Ma Daniels, we used to call her. So her grandson was with me on drugs, but every single night in the middle of the night, we were standing on the corner, she would come out and she would pray, and she always prayed, Lord, I pray that you will help Albert. Then I think to myself, you are praying to help Albert, but your grandchildren is standing here. Why don't you pray for them? And out of all the friends that she prayed for, the one person's name that she has mentioned is the one that has really made the change in his life. But the change that I've made in my life was obviously through the prayers of Amar Daniels, But the changes that I made in my life wasn't just for myself, it was because I needed to impact the lives of those that was around me. So never
Mm.
ever give up on praying. Don't think maybe if your son and daughter's on drugs that you have to forget about your neighbor's son that's on drugs. Maybe you praying for your son to the neighbor's son to stop using drugs, then that son will change the life of your daughter or your son. So sometimes you just have to change the perspective in your prayer. So then I want to speak to somebody, to a father maybe that is finding himself and saying, look here, I don't know really what to do. As men, we struggle to find ourselves and how we need to do things. The one thing that I realized when we were young, we as men, when we were boys, when we were young, we had the power of imagination. If I had to be 3 years old and I had this page in my hand, I could take this page, then I make it a car. I can take the very same page, then I make it an aeroplane. This very same page can be anything that I put my mind to it. So it means we have the power of imagination. So what I want to tell you, the Bible tells us that God, when He created the heavens and the earth, He thought about it and He created. So He had the imagination and He was able to create it. Now I want to tell you, what are you imagining about yourself? Stop thinking yourself as someone that was in the past. Start seeing yourself as someone that you are in the future. Because whatever you are able to imagine, because God has given us the ability to imagine. So do we think that He has given us the ability to imagine just for the sake of imagining? No. He has given us the ability to imagine so that it can materialize the things that we are imagining. So if you want to see yourself come out of the job, start dressing yourself up as somebody that is working. Stop acting like someone that is working, and you will see automatically you will attract it. I'm ending with this. They say opportunities of a lifetime needs to be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity. So in every opportunity, there's a lifespan. So start tuning your eyes to see the opportunity, start tuning your ears to hear the opportunity, and start tuning your mouth so that you can speak yourself into the opportunity.
Wow, wow, wow. Dennis, anything
Ek, my,
you want to
my opportunity is klaar.
add?
Powerful.
Wow, powerful, powerful.
Yo, once again, Albert. Yo, Albert, thank you, brother. Thank you, thank you.
Pleasure.
Yo,
Thank
yo,
you.
yo.
Gentlemen,
I've been blessed by this, man.
yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this was an eye opener, and I think we should have more of this type of conversations there, Dennis. With people with a testimony, people that live that life, people that know. A lot of time people don't study this type of things, right? And they go to places. This is going to happen to you. But I think, like both of you have been in the situation, listening to both of you going through this process, it makes more sense for me because
Mm.
now I can relate, and also you can relate to me, and we can understand. And I think this is things that we need to do is to bring the reality out and tell people. But kyk, daar is hoeveel man. But thank you so much, gentlemen. We must have this conversation again in the next couple of weeks and continue on it and build on it. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you,
Anything you want
guys.
to
Thank
say?
you.
Nothing? Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was Albert Matthews. You can follow him. I've actually said his page, his YouTube channel here. Please go like his YouTube channel, subscribe. When I listened to his testimony for the first time last week, I realized that there is a second chance. Sy hoef hom op te gee nie, man. Sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you feel nothing is working for you. But I want to tell you, there is hope. Dennis went through the same things in his life. He actually had to say something that he said with us last week, but I feel maybe we can do that on a next occasion. But thank you so much for tuning in. And guys, it's time for us to talk. It's time for us as men to stand up and to speak about what is wrong in our lives and fix things. Myself personally, I have to go and ek moet myself gaan ondersoek en gaan kyk, Stan, wat doen sy verkeerd? Because that is the problem is, if you don't look at yourself and change yourself, you're going to break more people along the way. You're going to become a problem to many others. And that is where we need to look at ourselves and see how can we fix ourselves. And if we fix ourselves as men, we fix a lot of other things in our community. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. This was an awesome evening, a good conversation, a good topic. It was needed. And please do share this live. Please do share it and tell your friends about it, and join us next week again. We will talk about these things, and it's things like this that actually later on, if you don't deal with it, that actually increases the gender-based violence situation in many communities. So thank you so much for joining us, and have an awesome evening. Don't forget to go vote tomorrow, and God bless you guys.